Oh,
Hi, welcome to the coaching game. I'm Laurie Lawson, and look who's back. Yay, Angela Reynolds. Angela,
yes.
hey.
Hi. Great
Hi.
to, it's a good, it's so cool to be here again. So it's like I'm trying to contain my excitement, so I have to sound very poised.
Okay,
Hi.
hi. All right. Well,
Hello. I am flat out excited to be here again. Can I just
I,
tell you?
yes, you
Flat out
can. Please
excited.
tell me
Flat
that.
out, I am flat out excited to be here again. So I just want to say that part.
Let me tell you how she got here again. We did this delightful show that people are actually commenting on about joyful leadership. And everybody goes, is that possible? And so Angela sort of thought she came up with this whole lovely concept, and I'm going to make her tell you again. Um, and
Mm.
then right at the end, she goes, oh, yeah, and I did a workbook. And I went, what? It's like, well, now we have to look at the workbook. And when I looked at the workbook, it was like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. So I said, please come back and let's follow up with the workbook, and we'll give them an idea of what you're doing. But Angela is a coach and the creator of Joyful Leadership, which is a program, and we're going to find out how you can get involved in that. But yeah, so I'm thrilled to have you back and do a little bit more because the workbook knocked me out. It was like, oh, this is a I love workbooks anyway, but this is done so well. So,
Thank you.
Angela, you are welcome.
Thank you. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about joyful leadership and how it came about.
Thank you. Well, I got to tell you, it came from just like years of observation. Like I would watch like genuinely smart leaders reach a point in their with like a point where their intelligence would just it just wasn't sustainable.
Went away.
Like it just, and I'm sure it's still there, but it just wasn't sustainable. They knew the work, they understood the business, and they could get results, but like I couldn't understand why some of them weren't very nice people. And I saw the opposite in some cases where I saw leaders who were just incredibly nice, like they were genuinely good people, but their niceness wasn't necessarily changing the anything within the organization. And then me myself, I've also been bullied by bosses, like throughout my career. And so I remember thinking like, you don't have to yell at me. You don't have to yell at me. Your title is your authority. And like if you tell me to do something, like I have to do it because you're my boss. Like you have the title. And so like it got to a point where I didn't understand why like leaders would make people feel bad in order to get them to do what needs to be done. And got me that question just had me thinking like over the years, like I've attended like countless workshops and seminars and all these different leadership programs and different schools of thought. And I learned a lot from them, but I kept noticing that we rarely focus. It was something that we didn't focus on. And, we talked about the decisions, the strategies, the behaviors, and like all these different outcomes. But we didn't talk about the leader, the self, the person who was actually making all these different decisions. And so I started thinking, well, what if making the decision mattered as much as, or maybe even more than the decision itself? Like, who's the person making the decision? And that's where Joyful Leadership came from. And I spent like a lot of time just studying and researching and writing and learning. And I got to a point where it wasn't really about, the what to do. It was the who's doing it. And that's where Joyful Leadership came from. Because, it's like excuse me, leaders, I say people and leaders, people lead from people lead from who they are long before they lead from what they know.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I think I'd have to agree with it. Let me ask you, because as you were talking, I'm thinking, what happened to the old adage, nice guys never finish first? So what do we need to do? Redefine finish? How can that be with joyful leadership? Because that you're a nice guy and you're gonna lead, I hope.
Well, I think it's possible to do two things at the same time, but I also don't want to confuse nice and kind. Nice is the pleasantry, and
Okay.
sometimes nice people don't want to make those decisions because they don't want to ruffle feathers, they want to avoid confrontation. And I think kindness is understanding both sides of the spectrum, understanding that if I don't hold you accountable, I respect you enough to say you can do better. And I'm going to hold you accountable to do that. And when we don't do that, I think we actually fail, not only the employee, but we also fail as leaders.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Oh, thank you. That makes it much clearer for me. Nice and kind are not necessarily the same. They can be, but yeah,
Right.
kind is a broader spectrum, I think. So
Yeah, it is.
good. Let me tell you the name of her workbook. It's called Joyful Leadership Workbook, of course, but and it says practical tools and reflections to lead with purpose, positivity, and impact. Now, that's a lot of stuff to lead with and not the usual thing. What makes this what makes this so different, do you think? Because we've all had bosses that it's like, oh my God, really?
Mhm.
And you just the job just you may be able to do the job, but you'd rather not. It's just so unpleasant. So
Mhm.
what I know this is needed right now for sure, but what makes this so different in the sense that we've got emotional intelligence, we've got all that
Right.
stuff. What's the difference here? What makes it so special? Because it is special.
Well, I think thank you. I think what makes this one so different is that it really focuses on the individual. It's not just outcome based. A lot of times we think about all the behavioral outcomes, communication, positive feedback, all these different things that other workshops focus on, and those things are definitely important. But the person, you can have you it's possible to have one without the other. So you can have a person who has all this information, they know how to do positive feedback and effective communication, they have all these great skills, but internally what's running that individual? And that's where joyful leadership kind of focuses on the operating system of the individual, and that's what makes it different.
Love it. Okay. So let me ask you a little bit about the Joyful Leadership Program. Is it in
Mhm.
operation right now? Is it a work in progress? How can people get around and get to doing this? How does that work?
Well, it's in progress. It's in progress. Actually, I have a talk actually in November. Yeah,
Oh,
so we're launching it. We're ready. We feel good.
good, good.
I do. I feel really good about it. So yeah, we're ready.
So let me
Mhm.
let me ask you about the workbook then. Is
Go
the
ahead.
workbook available independently? Is it a part of the program that you're offering? How can people get their hands on this? I love this workbook.
So the workbook really goes along with the workshop.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
a companion workbook. So you were one of the very few people who had their hands on it without the
Oh, now
workshop.
I'm publicizing you.
Yes.
Oh.
So, but no, it's a good thing. So actually there's two workbooks. So there's one that you have not seen. It's called
She
From
always does this. She'll tell you, I think I've got
it's
her down, and she go, oh no, I
is
have
it
something else.
because I started thinking, like, I've listened to other people and they really wanted to have a workbook, something that they could work on and get those kinds of internal growth, that kind of internal growth. And so I decided to do a workbook. I said, you know what, let me just go ahead and put this other one together. And it's called From Seed to Self and the Spaces in Between.
Oh,
And
what
so
a
that's where
title. I love
right.
it.
So that's where we can begin to work on, do some of the internal work that kind of leads you into joyful leadership.
Okay, okay. Well, I know I want to see it when it's done. So we'll be seeing Angela again, I'm sure.
Mhm.
But let's talk about the workbook that's actually in operation
Yes.
here. And
Yes.
I love the way you've laid it out because the first section, well, her your philosophy is, you might want to explain this a little bit. It's like think, feel, grow, repeat. It's like, repeat, didn't I get all this
Right.
done? What's your thought on it? It's like, I did all that. Well, I got to repeat it now. Yeah.
Well, yeah, well, so that's such an interesting framework for me because it's the process of creation. It's the process of how we actually make these kinds of changes in our lives, right? So we have this thought, and that's where the wisdom comes in. That's where all the self-reflection comes in. That's where we really begin to understand our thinking patterns. What's our thinking system? So that's where the think comes from, right? And then the feel. How do we make this real? How do we go from thought into actionable behaviors? And then once you do that, how do you secure this new thought, this new belief system? And then that's where the growth, you kind of go into the growth. And the growth happens where we begin to cement these new thoughts, these new beliefs, and we actually make actionable steps that can make it very real, not just for ourselves, but the people who are on the receiving end of it. It's not the same if we're just internalizing all this information and then when things happen, we don't know how to apply it. So this is where it becomes very actionable. And then that's where we go into the appreciate. I'm thinking of the workbook itself, think, feel, grow, repeat. So the repeat is actually reflective of appreciation. And so those things are the core pillars of the actual framework, and they come from in this particular case, it comes from character traits and core values.
Okay, and again, while you were thinking, that's why I love to talk to her. While you were thinking, I mean, while you were talking, I was thinking. Also, I would think that okay, so you go through this phase, and
Mm-hmm.
then you're at the end point, and it's like, well, now that you've broadened your perspective, and now that you've learned and felt and grown, uh, everything looks differently. Because you, and then so now it's like I got to go back and reevaluate this and think, grow, and repeat. And so I love the process. It's like you're never really done. And it's not, rather than being exhausting, it's kind of exhilarating. It's like, oh my gosh, what's next? And you know, that's with coaching too. You had no
Mm-hmm.
idea. And then it's like, gosh, I thought I knew everything and I don't know anything. I got to go back and find out what else I don't know. So I love the whole thought that you did that. Yeah.
I like to add to that also. It is work. The beauty of it is that most of the work is like an airplane, like in a takeoff. It uses most of its fuel in the takeoff. Once it's sailing, it's there, it's great. And so with this process, the beginning is truly the work is truly being self-reflective. It's kind of really getting into the nitty-gritty of what's driving your operating system, like what's interfering with you becoming the ideal version of yourself. We have all of this information and we know what to do. And when you say you return to it, it's easier to return to what is inherently within you than it is to return to something you're trying to remember out of a book.
Ah, yeah. Okay, so let me do, this workbook has what is it? It's four pillars.
Yes.
And I like that. Sturdy foundation, way to get
Mhm.
there. And the first pillar is like understanding yourself as a leader. And
Mhm.
it's like tell us a little bit about that because you have some great ideas in here, but tell us a little bit about that.
Where you're understanding yourself as a leader, that would be the first pillar. And it's truly understanding the things that govern your operating system, your limiting beliefs, your things that are showing up in your behavior and in your responses today that we may not be aware of. That's where we start to truly understand what's governing the decisions and the impact that it's having on other people.
Right. And you start out with core values.
Hmm.
And it's like think of yourself. And I love it. Think of yourself um, as a diamond, and it's
The
like
diamond metaphor. Hmm.
yeah, yeah. She has this whole thing with rain and steam. I'm not going to make her do that again. You know, go back and look at the other show.
It's
But
okay.
tell us what is because you have a great story. This is so interactive. She gives you stories. She gives you examples. She gives you coaching tips, and then you get to do work. It's like she's
You
this
do get to do work.
this is
You definitely get to do
interactive.
the work.
Yeah, you feel like, okay, I'm a part of this. And it's not, you're just not reading words of wisdom. You are putting them into practice. So one of the for the core value, it's like think of yourself as a diamond, which I think is brilliant. And it starts out, do you mind telling Marcus's story a little bit? Do you remember what it was?
Oh, wow. I mean, it's hard to remember his story specifically, but I do know the diamond metaphor.
Okay, do that.
Since that's easy for me. And this what kind of relates to Marcus. And so the diamond metaphor is everyone knows what a diamond is. And at some point, we're going to buy a diamond in our life, right? If we haven't done so already. And
Mhm.
so in order for you to determine the worth of the diamond, what it's valued as, you have to know the character of the diamond. And a diamond has four C's, the four character traits of a diamond. And so you can't determine the worth of the value until you get that. And so what Marcus does is he goes through these stages where he's kind of operating from those core values alone. And at some point, those core values really aren't enough. How do we tap into the things that, well, in this particular case, the character traits of those diamonds, of the diamond itself? And every individual, just like diamonds are, unique, so are people. So
Mhm.
your character traits will are going to be unique to you, even though someone else may have a similar character trait. It's not going to reflect the same as it will reflect in you. So that's the core thesis of the diamond metaphor itself.
Yeah, because in
Mhm,
Marcus's story, he
mhm.
was doing everything right. I think the administration changed or something, but he was doing everything right, and it was, or what he thought was right.
What he thought was right, yeah.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
this isn't working out, and I'm a good employee. What's going on? I'm a good leader, and
Yeah.
then and so Angela in her coaching way said, "Well, think of yourself. Have you bought a diamond?" And he goes, "Well, do you just take everybody's word about how it's supposed to be?" And he went, "No, of course not." And it's like, okay. Now we're
That's the
into core
swing.
values. You thought you were into core values, but now we're really getting into some core values and how to live the core values. Yeah, how to walk the walk, actually. Yeah.
And I think it's Marcus's story. It's could be anyone's story, right? And so it's
Mhm.
we do, companies really focus on those core values. And at some point, we do kind of run out. It gets to a point where it's like, well, now what do I do? I've put everything to test, everything that I've learned, I'm executing, and I'm still not making the change that's necessary within the organization and also within myself. Like, what's happening? And it's hard to move forward with those core values if you don't know your character traits.
Yeah.
And that's where joyful leadership focuses on. And that's what makes us so different.
Definitely, definitely. It's like, yes, because companies change, administrations change,
Mhm.
missions change, and but if you are true to yourself, then you know how to fit in there and or not, okay, this is really against my core value and time to move on. But yeah. She also talks about personal blocks. Tell us a little bit about those because we all have good intentions,
We
but
do. Yeah, we do. And the personal blocks are so amazing because I think a lot of times we're not aware that it's an actual block because we're so conscious and cognizant. We're so cognizant of what the core value is or what our intention is, and that block, whether or not it's your inner critic, your limiting beliefs, whatever you believe about yourself or someone else, it can show up, and it can show up, and it can actually derail your intended goal. It can derail a project. It can derail a relationship, and when that happens, if you're not aware of what they are, it's hard to, and you have to know your opponent. And so it's not a matter of, I'm not saying that you should eradicate it all or wipe it all out. That's not what I would suggest anyone to do. But I do think that when you're aware of it, you learn to take the power away from it because it's going to happen if it's part of who you are. And we invent these different parts of ourselves really to protect ourselves. So those blocks that we have were really created by some part in our consciousness just to protect ourselves from being hurt, being rejected, and all these different things. And so, in this particular case, I think being aware of it takes the power away from it, and then you can kind of integrate yourself into that character trait and what to do from the next point.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
also when things aren't going the way they normally did, and
Yeah.
just poor Marcus again. I hope he was a pseudonym
Yeah,
for
poor
somebody,
Marcus,
not
right?
real.
You're
Poor
gonna make
Marcus.
me open my book to Marcus. I'm like, let me go to Marcus.
Look up
I've
Marcus.
been working on so many other things. Now I'm gonna go back to Marcus.
Well,
Go ahead.
he was a great example, and that's not. She has tons of stories in there, but
Yeah.
yeah, and also if when something changes and you've been doing
Mhm.
it this one way and it doesn't work out, then it's very easy to slip into I'm not good enough. I don't know what I'm doing. I thought I knew what I'm doing. I've lost my touch. So those are all things that we need to be aware of, certainly. Um, and you kind of had something where a reality check. it's like how do we check our reality and go, is this like a voice that's just criticizing me, or is this real? How do we do that?
And so, the book takes you in this particular workbook, it takes you through different exercises where you can, if it's true, it will have legs to stand on, like you'll have supporting evidence. And a lot of times the things that are true for us are built from something that happened a long time ago.
Oh
And
yeah.
is that thing happening today? The Great Wall of China,
Mhm.
if they tore down the Great Wall of China, there'd be no invasion, right? The reason for building it, that threat no longer exists. And these personal blocks, like I said, they were built or formed in our minds to actually protect us, but that threat no longer exists. And although these things can happen when we have an interruption, when there's some kind of breakdown, and I use the word lightly when I say breakdown. It's we tend to revert back to, I remember this feeling.
Ah,
And when we go back to I remember this feeling, then we revisit those same thoughts.
yes, yes. All right, let's get off Marcus. We've
Okay,
tortured him enough.
poor Marcus.
We have tortured the man. Okay, he got it
Listen,
together.
if there's a Marcus out there, this story is not about you now.
Really, don't take this personally. I just want to tell you the other pillars. I want to tell you also because it'll be toward the end, but I want to tell you that well, let's see. Okay, one of the pillars are the second pillar is joy, leading from alignment instead of
Hmm.
survival.
Hmm.
A brief thing. What does that mean?
Say it again.
Just a brief explanation of that. What does that mean?
So joy is not so much as a happy feeling. It's not so much of you know, oh, I feel so great today. And I mean, and you can feel great, but that's more happiness. There's this inner feeling, this inner awareness that comes from um, knowing what the next move is going to be. So, a lot of times when we are going through these cycles of growth or cycles of change, knowing that I know how to get out of this. It doesn't take away the pain. It doesn't take away the stress. It doesn't take away any of those negative feelings or emotions. But the joy is in the knowing that I know how to get out of this. And that's where we go through those stages. Enjoy.
Beautiful, beautiful
Yeah.
explanation. Pillar three is growth, creating
Yes.
intentional behavioral change. What's that mean?
Right.
How you do
So,
that?
so growth is where we begin to stabilize the leadership, concept. And it's where we begin to test for ecology. We want to make sure that our environment supports this new idea that we have of ourselves. We've gone through all the core values, we've gone through the character traits, we've gone through understanding the joy part and the awareness and what to do with it. But now, how do we stabilize it? How do we make this very real for us? How do we hold ourselves accountable in behavioral change? And how do we do all these different things? So it's making sure that the environment supports this new ideal self that we have. We've done all this work, and a lot of times that's where we break down. Is I think it's hard for sometimes for people to move from inspiration to motivation. Right, we're inspired and we feel good, and that's what happens when we go to like different workshops. It's like we feel good, we grit it, we get it intellectually, we totally understand. But then in the real world, is it sustainable? Can it last in the real world? Can it last when the going gets tough? Can it last when we need to show up, right? And so, and this particular module is where we learn how to actually support our environment, support our internal environment, and support our external environment so that we can grow into these new concepts that we have of ourselves.
Cool, cool, very cool. And my favorite, don't ask me why it's my favorite, is the fourth pillar, which is appreciation. Oh, I am always into
Is it really
gratitude.
your favorite?
I swear it is, and I'll tell you why. Because
Yeah.
it's leading people with accountability and humility. I'm sorry,
Hmm.
humanity, but maybe humility too, but
It
humanity.
applies. It applies.
It does. But
Hmm.
you know what makes me love it? Because Angela has put in there, what would you do? And she gives you these scenarios, and it's
Hmm.
like, what would you do? And they're not easy scenarios. It's like, oh man, this is really testing my, I don't know what it's testing, my logic versus my heart versus, the humanity, I guess. But beautiful. I
Yeah.
think that's such a way to say, okay, you've got the knowledge. Now, what would you do based on my character? What would I do? And I don't
There you go.
think there's any right answer there, but I think what would I do? So
Hmm.
it's my favorite. I like it. I like to be interactive. Yeah.
Yeah, that particular one is where I think I go a little more into the character traits and from different people,
Yeah.
different. I think I give more scenarios and the that fourth pillar because I think it's so important when we are um, again, how do we transfer what we know into real life?
Mm.
And so in that particular module is where you have the opportunity to go through these different scenarios. And appreciation is so important because it's to me, it's an action word. People don't feel appreciated by us. I think the worst feeling in the world is when we lose good employees because they don't feel appreciated.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's
It's
supposed to
not,
be the number one reason. It's not money, and
yeah,
it's
it's
that
not
people
money.
just don't feel like they're worthwhile. That they're being
Absolutely.
appreciated. Yeah, that
And
is the
and
number
we
one.
Yeah, employees, employers, companies, we lose so many amazing leaders from
Mm,
that feeling alone. And whether we realize it or not, we're actually searching for a feeling. A lot of times
mm.
people don't know what they want, but they know how they want to feel. They want to feel
Ah,
respected. They want to feel needed. They want to feel wanted. They may not know what it looks like, but they know what they want to feel. And so that's where this appreciation comes in and the humanity. We get so caught in leadership that we forget that we're not just leading, numbers. We're leading people and we're responsible for their lives. I think joyful leadership does it in a way where you don't have to you're not thinking about the everyone's emotions, but you are making sure that people are experiencing you in a way that's reciprocal, where we're creating that psychological safety, not just for ourselves but for others, and that's really important.
well, we have like 90 seconds left. I want to be in the room where it happens. Tell me about what are you talking about in November, and where can we find you? This I just
I
congratulate.
have to thank you so much. I have to share it. It's November 10th for Alive, the volunteer organization called Alive.
Mhm.
It's really, really exciting. So I'm super excited about that, but I will definitely keep you posted. And any
Okay.
room that I can get you in, I'm happy to have you join that room. I am so happy to have you join that room. Believe
Oh,
me
I
when I
would
tell
love
you.
to. And I will let everybody else know how. Is it open to the public, or is it just open to a live employees
I,
or
I, I can ask. I can
okay,
ask.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to ask.
Will it be taped? Are you going to do it again? Is how long is it? We have all kinds of questions. You
Listen,
might have to come back, Angela. I don't know.
I would be thrilled to come back and I'll send you a copy of From Seed to Self and the spaces in
Please.
between.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you just anticipate another show with Angela Reynolds because she won't stop doing cool stuff. I don't know.
I,
So we got to
I
keep
can't
having
stop.
her
Listen,
on.
can't stop, won't stop. Can't stop,
Don't do
won't
it.
stop.
Don't do it. So,
You know,
okay, so November 10th. But
yes.
you're gonna let me know maybe a little bit more information and I can post it for you and you can post it and we'll all get together and maybe see it or not or how we can follow up because I think everybody should have this workbook, but I know that's not the plan. So but for now, maybe
Well,
see.
I'd have to ask. I mean, you have a sneak peek at it. You are a coach, but if a person isn't a coach, would they be able to follow the format?
Yes, I that's why I love it so much. It's not coachy. It's not, I mean, it has elements of coaching, of course, but
Right.
it's not coachy and it's not preachy. It's just get in there and do some work here.
I really tried to keep it human. I tried to keep it fun. I
That's
tried
what
to
it
keep
is,
it,
human, human.
I really tried to, I didn't want that sterile blah, blah, blah.
You did it. You did it. Thank you, Angela, again for being on the
Uh,
show. Don't
I
go anywhere
appreciate you.
because we'll probably have you back real soon.
That's exciting.
I think so too.